After a long and exhausting summer filled with rumors, speculation, and silence, the Golden State Warriors have finally made a move that feels like a loud and clear message to the rest of the league. They're ready to pivot. Not just talk about it, actually do it. After dragging their feet for months, the front office has now re-engaged with the Sacramento Kings on the trade proposal involving Jonathan Kuminga. And to be honest, it feels like an admission of defeat. And not just a little one. This is the Warriors quietly walking back all the bravado and saying, yeah, maybe we overplayed this. The reported offer from Sacramento hasn't changed. A protected first-round pick all the way out in 2030, plus Malik Monk. Now, whether that pick ever actually conveys or ends up disappearing into the void of protections is a whole other conversation. But even at face value, it's clear that the Warriors are no longer trying to bluff their way through this situation. They're conceding. Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy clearly tried to hold the line, hoping Kuminga would blink first. And he didn't. And you could see this coming from a mile away. Fans could feel it. Players could feel it. It's been the cloud hanging over this team all offseason, and now it seems like we're finally heading toward resolution. And make no mistake, Jonathan Kuminga betting on himself this hard? That says a lot. The guy barely cracked the rotation at times last season, and instead of playing it safe, instead of taking guaranteed money in a stable role, he's basically drawn a line in the sand. He was prepared to skip media day, delay everything, make things uncomfortable, all to either force a trade or walk into restricted free agency next year with a giant chip on his shoulder and a qualifying offer in his back pocket. That's not just a contract decision. That's a locker room distraction waiting to explode, especially for a team like the Warriors that's trying to chase one more ring before this core runs out of gas. Let's be real here. Golden State cannot afford a slow start this season. They've been through this before. We remember the 2015 season when they came out of the gate like a freight train and never looked back. That energy, that focus, that unity, that's what made that 73-win season possible. And this version of the Warriors? They desperately need to recapture that kind of momentum, especially with the Western Conference as stacked as it is. Having Kuminga in the building, but not mentally locked in, that's just not going to work. It doesn't matter if he comes in and puts up 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists a night. If the energy's off, if the chemistry isn't there, those numbers mean absolutely nothing. They're empty stats. They don't move the needle in the win column, and they don't make anyone better around him. What ends up happening in that kind of scenario is simple. He becomes a black hole on offense. Shots that should be going to Steph Curry or Jimmy or even feeding the bigs in the paint, they get rerouted. The ball movement slows down. The spacing gets tighter. And that fluid, unselfish identity that made Golden State famous, it disappears. So yeah, even if it's not ideal value, even if it stings a little, the Warriors moving forward with this Kings deal is better than sitting in limbo. At least now, they've got something to work with. Even if Monk and a late pick aren't perfect fits, they're assets. They can be flipped. They can be leveraged. And that's what this is really about now. Asset management and keeping the title window cracked open just a little bit longer. Looking at Monk specifically, he's a legit shooter. He's not exactly a Warrior-style player in terms of ball movement and defense, but as a sixth-man or bench bar plug, he has value, if not to the Warriors directly, then to another team that fits his skill set better. That's where things get interesting, because what this trade really looks like is the beginning of a bigger move. Something that probably involved a third team, maybe even a fourth. Teams like the Chicago Bulls have been sitting on awkward, misfit pieces for years now. Guys who can play, but not necessarily in the system they're stuck in. You look at someone like Kevin Huerter, pure shooter, can space the floor, but maybe lost in the shuffle in Sacramento. Or Nikola Vucevic, who still puts up decent numbers, but doesn't exactly scream modern NBA center. The Bulls could be looking to shed salary, get younger, or just shake things up. And with Kuminga clearly on the way out, and Malik Monk possibly just a placeholder, you can absolutely see the outlines of a multi-team deal forming. Throw in a protected first-rounder, maybe some second-round sweeteners, and suddenly the Warriors could be back in the mix for someone that actually fits their system. Even if Monk doesn't stay, there are plenty of teams around the league that would jump at the chance to get a bench scorer who can shoot the lights out. And that's leverage. That's where Golden State has to be smart. Take that pick and that contract and shop it. See what sticks. There's always someone trying to move a veteran for cap relief or reposition themselves with draft assets. And for the Warriors, any piece that gets them closer to the depth and versatility they were lacking last season is worth pursuing. That 8-man rotation down the stretch last year, that can't happen again. You need 10, maybe even 11 reliable guys, especially if injuries hit or the younger players don't take the leap you're hoping for. Media Day is coming up fast. It's right around the corner. And you better believe the Warriors want to walk into that room with clarity. No question marks. No contract drama. No trade distractions. Just a team that knows who's on the roster, who's in the locker room, and what the goal is from day one. You use training camp and preseason to experiment, fine-tune the rotation, and get your chemistry right. You don't use it to manage a situation that should have been resolved in July. So with that in mind, it's hard not to feel like a Kuminga deal is going down this weekend. Sunday at the absolute latest. And once that domino falls, expect a flurry of moves to follow. The Warriors have trade exceptions. They've got minimum contracts to fill. And there are still plenty of free agents looking for homes. Players like Gary Payton II, Seth Curry, maybe even Al Horford if the timing and fit makes sense. And that doesn't even account for the rookies or two-way guys they might want to bring in for evaluation during preseason. It all hinges on what comes next. Because if the Warriors turn this into a straight salary dump, it's a missed opportunity. But if they can spin Monk and that pick into a piece that fits, whether it's a big like Nick Richards, a versatile forward like Royce O'Neal, or a reunion with someone like Kelly Oubre Jr., then suddenly this team looks deeper, more balanced, and ready to contend. Not just hang on to the past, but actually make one more real run at it. And based on the signals coming out of the Bay, it feels like that's exactly what they're trying to do. Now, beyond the trades, beyond the roster moves, and all the behind-the-scenes maneuvering, there's something else coming up that everyone's got circled on the calendar, and that's Media Day. It might not have the same weight as a playoff game or a major free agent signing, but for a team like the Warriors, Media Day is more than just a photo op. It's the tone setter. It's where we get our first real look at the group that's supposed to carry this team through the next 7 months. It's where you see who's locked in, who's not, who came in ready to work, and who's maybe just going through the motions. And for Warriors fans, this year's Media Day feels a little different. It's not just about hearing from Steph or Draymond or the latest draft picks. It's about finally getting some clarity after a summer full of smoke. The Kuminga situation has been the elephant in the room, and once that's dealt with, and it will be dealt with probably by Sunday, the attention turns to the rest of the roster. What does this team actually look like going into preseason? Who fills out the bench? What kind of identity are they trying to build? Because last year, they were all over the place. One night, they looked like contenders. The next night, like a lottery team. There was no consistency, no rhythm. And a big part of that was the lack of depth, the lack of lineup versatility, and frankly, the lack of cohesion. This year has to be different, and it starts on Media Day. Players show up knowing that the organization has made moves. They've reshuffled. They've cut ties with someone like Kuminga, who, while talented, clearly wasn't on the same page mentally. That sends a message. It says, we're done with distractions. We're focused on basketball. So now you look at the roster and start imagining the possibilities. If the trade pieces like Monk and that pick are used properly, you could end up with someone like Kevin Huerter stretching the floor, or a steady veteran like Royce O'Neal shoring up the defense. Maybe even a big body like Nick Richards who gives you size in the paint, something they've desperately needed for years. Suddenly you're talking about a deeper, more balanced rotation that can absorb foul trouble, injuries, or just the wear and tear of an 82-game grind. And while we're at it, let's talk about the one guy who always manages to steal the spotlight on Media Day, Jimmy Butler. Now, obviously he's not a Warrior, but every year around this time, the question comes up, what kind of wild look is Jimmy going to show up with? This has become a tradition. He shows up looking absolutely insane, and then the next day he's back to normal. It's like a Halloween party that only he was invited to. A few years ago, it was the braids. Then it was the emo phase. One year, he even pulled off the half-shaved side with piercings and a look like he was about to front a punk band. And now people are already placing bets on what he'll do this year. If I had to guess, I'd say he's going full island boy with some kind of palm tree-inspired hairstyle sticking straight up. Not bleached blonde, not neon colors, just straight chaos. And it's not even about the look itself. It's about the vibe. Jimmy loves to troll. He loves the theatrics. And with the Heat kind of hanging in that weird in-between space. Not quite contenders, not quite rebuilders. You know, Jimmy's going to use Media Day to remind everyone that he's still the most unpredictable man in the league. He once said that Media Day is his Halloween, and honestly, I hope he goes all in again this year. Because whether you're a Heat fan or not, you have to appreciate someone who doesn't take himself too seriously, especially when the rest of the league is treating Media Day like a job interview. But back to the Warriors, because this is about them setting the stage. Once Media Day hits, that's it. The drama of the offseason ends. Everything moves into preseason mode. And if the front office can nail these last few pieces, whether it's trading Malik Monk, flipping that draft pick, or signing guys like Gary Payton, DeAnthony Melton, maybe even bringing back someone like Kelly Oubre Jr., the goal is to walk into the first day of training camp with every question answered. No loose ends, no chaos, just a full roster ready to go. And that means not just building for the playoffs, but building to survive the season itself. That's the part people forget. The NBA isn't just about having 5 stars who can ball out in May. It's about getting to May in one piece. Last season, the Warriors had too many games where they leaned too hard on Steph, too many minutes for Draymond, and not enough help off the bench. You saw guys like Moody, Podziemski, even GP2 when healthy, trying to hold it together, but it was clear they needed more. Now is the time to fix that. This is their shot to reset the rotation, balance the roster, and give Steve Kerr the flexibility he needs to actually coach creatively again, not just plug leaks night after night. You get a healthy squad with real bench depth, and suddenly you're not scraping by in the regular season. You're building momentum. You're keeping guys fresh. You're experimenting with lineups that can actually switch things up depending on the opponent. That's what the 2015 team had. That's what the 73-win squad had. Options, versatility, energy off the bench, the ability to go small, go big, go fast, or slow it down depending on the situation. In this current group, they still have the core to do it, but only if they surround that core with the right pieces. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. In a shocking turn of events that has already set social media ablaze, Stephen Curry, the Golden State Warriors' iconic point guard, reportedly unleashed a fiery critique of his longtime teammate Draymond Green during what insiders are calling an intense locker room exchange. While Curry, widely hailed as one of the greatest shooters in basketball history, is known for his calm demeanor and clutch performances, sources suggest that his recent comments have divided opinions across the league and among fans. The whispers began after a seemingly routine practice session, where tensions between Curry and Green allegedly boiled over. According to sources close to the team, Curry's remarks were pointed, highlighting frustrations over team dynamics and playing styles. Wardell doesn't hold back when he sees something that affects the team, one unnamed insider told us. He's competitive to the core, and when he thinks something isn't working, he says it. Reactions have been swift and polarized. Some analysts praise Curry for speaking his mind, seeing it as a sign of leadership and accountability. Others, however, worry about the potential fallout, pointing out that Green has been a cornerstone of the Warriors' defensive schemes and locker room chemistry for years. Social media, as expected, exploded with speculation. Clips from old games have resurfaced, with fans debating whether the Curry-Green dynamic has always been tense or if this is a new chapter in their partnership. Interestingly, neither Curry nor Green have commented publicly yet, fueling the rumor mill even further. Some teammates reportedly tried to mediate behind closed doors, but sources claim that the atmosphere remains tense but professional. Sports commentators are already theorizing how this tension might affect the Warriors' performance in the upcoming season. Could this crack in one of the NBA's most celebrated duos spark a shift in the team's hierarchy? Or is it simply the kind of internal friction that elite teams often experience before big moments? What remains certain is that Curry's standing in the basketball world continues to be unshakable. even as debates swirl over his remarks about Green. His legacy as perhaps the greatest shooter the sport has ever seen remains untouched. Yet, the drama surrounding this rumored confrontation is a reminder that even superstars are not immune to human emotion. In the high-stakes world of the NBA, one heated word can ignite a firestorm that won't easily be put out. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.